Hi there, my name's Robert. I'm an astronomer and communicator at Onsala Space Observatory, which is where I'm going to be talking about our new visitor centre and its exhibition. So where are we? We're on the west coast of Sweden, by the sea, and in a place with a number of spectacular radio telescopes. So we have a new visitor center here, which is located right among the telescopes. It's an interesting, the building project itself is interesting, but I'm not here to talk about that. We've aimed for supporting visits from schools in particular with a target age of 10 to 15-year-olds, but we want to also reach everybody else. The exhibition that we've built here has the theme of technology for exploring the Earth, space, and the universe, which unites all the research interests that we have at the observatory. So we know that space and astronomy attracts young people to STEM subjects, and particularly the more spectacular aspects of it. Our research at the observatory and at Chalmers in general links space and the Earth in ways that are interesting for meeting societal challenges that we have in the future. So we want to use this opportunity, this environment, to increase science capital in kids in school and everybody else. So this is an arena for informal learning, a little bit like a science center and quite a lot like a field trip. So we want to maximize science capital, and we know from from previous research that exploratory learning is a good way of doing this. If you get to explore yourself and according to your own interests, you have a bigger chance of engaging with the science in a way that actually sticks. Particularly from visitors with diverse backgrounds or not a lot of previous knowledge. So we want to lower thresholds for visitor interaction. This is something which we think we've worked a bit with here, and we think that other people might have benefit of it. So how do we do this? Well, our format at the observatory is guided tours, usually 2 hours. A school or another group comes with a bus. We cover costs for at least some of those groups, and so they're generally a busload. We found that 30 is a good number for like a school class for years 9 and below. And in parallel with that, we also have public events. So we've built an exhibition designed in-house with support from the Hasselblad Foundation, aimed at self-guided exploration. And the principle that we've used is to test all the time with groups as soon as we had the exhibition ready. So the first tests that we did with the first groups that came after the exhibition was inaugurated shows that kids lose interest very fast. They don't guide themselves around in a good enough way. So as a solution to this, we introduced this concept of quest-based activity cards, an idea from Peter Hellgren at Curiosum. So this is what these cards look like. This is the Swedish version. We have them with English on the back. So they're easy to produce, A4 sheets. Around 20 to 25 of them initially, with different suggested activities in the exhibition. And you print out a new set for each group. The idea is you work in pairs, and you choose one activity, go and do it, return, take another one, and see how many you get through. No competition, no testing at the end. And we discovered after a while that we were using 4 different sorts of challenge that my colleague Joseph has also tested in previous in different places. an activity, some sort of self-measurement that you can, you're measuring yourself against something, a discussion question or a quiz question. So our first round of testing was with an entire term's worth of visits, around 20 different visitor groups from year 2, so like 10, 11, 12-year-olds, up to high school students and our public events. This picture is from one of the year 2 classes. So how did the activity cards work? So the result is that they really do engage visitors for a certain amount of time, 15 to 20 minutes, which is just fine for a 2-hour visit and a class that's unsupervised in the exhibition. The instructions are, however, too hard for age 11 and below to understand. So those kids all come and ask questions as soon as they get a card in their hands. The kids are generally speaking engaged, though not particularly excited. They get more excited by the telescopes themselves. And the most popular activities are the easiest to understand. For example, the space-themed memory game that they're playing in this picture here, and the planet weights, which you can also see in the photograph here. So, wise from our mistakes and our learnings from the first session, we tried a second iteration. This time we wanted to do a few new things to connect the activities to the school curriculum. Here on the right, you see a card in geography and another one in astronomy. So we have different topics that we're using. A little more connected to the curriculum. We wanted to simplify the text and the graphics, and we wanted to investigate these 4 different types of challenge by arranging all 4 on each card. And we also introduced a sort of starting card to be used at the beginning of each guided tour. So what the results from these, this was a much smaller testing run. It's still too hard for the 11-year-olds. We also discovered that each group really needs a good introduction to the cards in order to be able to understand what they're doing. So we're going to continue to work with this, and I'm super interested in getting more input from you. In general, our activity cards really do work in facilitating self-guiding, which for the short amount of time we have is really important for us. They give us an interface to the visitors, which is a little bit like a script or a guiding tool, which we can develop in the future. It also gives us feedback about what visitors find interesting and less interesting. We had a comment on one of the cards mentioned what was the weather like, was the written on the card, and somebody said, what a boring thing to ask. So we get information about where the kids are at and what they find interesting. As I said before, the cards are better for older learners, and they're really pretty good for high school, so we can work further with that. And we also need the groups to be more engaged and focused. So we also need to complement with other methods. Thanks very much.